ॐ शुक्लां भरधरं विष्णुं शशिवर्णं चतुर्भुजं प्रसन्नवदनं ध्यायेत् सर्वविघ्नोपशान्तये। ॐ सहना भवतु सहनौ भुनक्तु सह वीर्यं करभावहै तेजस्विनावधीतमस्तु मा विद्विषावहै। ॐ शान्तिः शान्तिः शान्तिः। अगजानन पद्मार्कं गजाननमहर्निशम् अनेकदन्तं भक्तानामेकदन्तमुपास्महे। श्रीमहागणपतये नमः। गुरवे सर्वलोकानां विषजे भवरोगिणां निधये सर्वविद्यानां श्रीदक्षिणामूर्तये नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। वसुदेवसुतं देवं कंसचाणूरमर्दनं देवकी परमानन्दं कृष्णं वन्दे जगद्गुरुं। ज्ञानानन्दमयं देवं निर्मलस्फटिकाकृतिम् आधारं सर्वविद्यानां श्रीहयग्रीवमुपास्महे। श्रीहयग्रीवमूर्तये नमः। सरस्वती नमस्तुभ्यं वरदे कामरूपिणि विद्यारम्भं करिष्यामि सिद्धिर्भवतु मे सदा। श्रीमहासरस्वत्यै नमः। उमाकोमलहस्ताब्ज सम्भावितललाटकं हिरण्यकुण्डलं वन्दे कुमारं पुष्करस्रजं। வெற்றிவேல் முருகனுக்கு ஹரஹரோஹர. லோகவீரியம் மகாபூஜ்யம் சர்வரக்ஷாகரம் விபும் பார்வதி ஹிருதயானந்தம் சாஸ்தாரம் பிரணமாம்யஹம். சுவாமியே சரணமையப்பா. வாகர்த்தாவிவ சம்பிருக்தௌ வாகர்த்த பிரதிபத்தயே जगतः पितरौ वन्दे पार्वती परमेश्वरौ। श्री पार्वती परमेश्वराभ्यां नमः। कोमलं कूजयन् वेणुं श्यामलोऽयं कुमारकः वेदवेद्यं परब्रह्म तस्मै श्रीगुरवे नमः। अस्मद्गुरुचरणारविन्दाभ्यां नमः। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। श्रीकृष्ण गोविन्द हरे मुरारे श्रीनाथ नारायण वासुदेव। पीताम्बरं करविराजितचक्रशङ्खकौमोदकी सरसिजं करुणासमुद्रं राधासहायम् अतिसुन्दरमन्दहासं वातालयेशम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। कृष्णो रक्षतु मां चराचरगुरुः कृष्णं नमस्ये सदा। कृष्णेनैव सुरक्षितोऽहमसकृत् कृष्णाय दत्तं मनः। कृष्णादेव समुद्भवो मम विभो कृष्णस्य दासोऽस्म्यहं। कृष्णे भक्तिरचञ्चलास्तु भगवन् हे कृष्ण तुभ्यं नमः। श्री गुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं। नम्राणां सन्निधत्ते सततमपि पुरस्तैरनभ्यर्थितानपि अर्थान् कामानजस्रं वितरति परमानन्दसान्द्रां गतिं च। इत्थं निःशेषलभ्यो निरवधिकफलः पारिजातो हरे त्वं क्षुद्रं तं शक्रवाटी ध्रुममभिलषति व्यर्थमर्तिव्रजोऽयं। श्रीगुरुवायूरप्पा शरणं। श्रीभट्टपादम् अनिशं हृदि भावयामि। वंशी विभूषितकरात् नवनीरदाभात् पीताम्बरात् अरुणबिम्बफलाधरोष्णात् पूर्णेन्दुसुन्दरमुखात् अरविन्दनेत्रात् कृष्णात् परं किमपि तत्त्वमहं न जाने। കൈരണ്ടും കൂപ്പി ഞാൻ വീണ്ടുമീരക്കുന്നു നീരജലോചന നിന്നോടായി. ഏതീനു മഞ്ഞനെ കുംഭീരേന്ദത്തോരു പ്രീതിയിൽ നീ എന്നെ പാലിക്കെന്നായി. കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ ജയ കൃഷ്ണ ഹരേ. Good morning, everyone. Okay, so can we do maybe the 75 last 5 stanzas we can review, and then 76 we can review from 1 to 7. So Revati and Vasu, can you both do the review? You can pick which one you want.
I will do 75.
Okay. ரேவதி உங்களுக்கு 76 பண்ண முடியுமா? ஓகே. So 6 to 10 பண்ணுங்க போதும். ஓகே.
6 to 10 பண்ணா போதுமா?
75. Yeah.
Perfect. Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. Okay. Chanuro Malavirasthadanurpaghira Mukshito Mukshishali Tvam Ramam Chabipede Jata Jatiti Mito Mushtipatati Ruksham Utpatapatan Akashana Vividha Rananyas Satam Tatra Chitram Mrityof Pragheva Mala Prabhu Ragamadhayan Bhurisho Bhanda Mokshan.
And the fourth line, Malla Pragheva Malla Prabhura Gamadayam.
Okay. Malla Prabhu. Okay. Ragamadayam, right?
Yes, Prabhur Agamadayam, but you say that together. Malla Prabhura Gamadayam.
Malla Prabhura Gamadayam. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. Keep going. Yeah.
Okay. Hadik Kashtam Kumarau Sulati Vapushau Malavirau Katoro Nadrakshyamu Vrajamaha Tvaritamiti Jane Bashamane Tadani Chanuram Tam Karodha Brahmana. Correct.
Karod Brahmana.
Okay. Chanuratam Karod Brahmana Vigaladasum Potayamasi Torvyam Pishto Bhunmushtikopi Drutamata Halina Nashta Shishtai Dadhave.
The first, the Malla Viro, you said Malla in both, the Malla Viro, Malla, so just not Ma, okay. And then second line, Brajama, Kapra, if you have a Visarga, put a is to join it. So Brajamas Tvaritamiti, okay.
Okay. Now the other really clear, sorry.
Keep going.
Okay. Kamsha Samvarya Turyam Kalamati Ravidham. Kalavati Ravidhan Karyamaryam Pitrum Stan Ahan. No, and the
Turiam Kapran, there is a comma, right? So Kamsa Samvarya Turyam Kalamati Ravidan Karyamaryan Pitrum Stan Ahantum.
Oh, Pitrum Stan Kapra Ahantum Kaprana Kamar Kilia.
Amma, comma is after Ahantum. Pitrum Stan Ahantum Vyaptamurtya.
Okay. Kamsa Samvarya Turyam Kalamati Ravidhan Karyamaryan Pitrum Stan Ahantum Vyaptamurte Stavacha Samashishad Dhuram Utsara Naya Dushtookti Bistvam Garuda Iva Girim Anchan Udanchat Kadgavya Valga Dusangrama Picha Hatat Pragrahir Augraseni.
Listen, Pragrahir Augraseni.
Oh, Pragrahir Augraseni.
And so neem and the Kutti neem. So Pragrahir Augrasenim.
Okay, neem.
No need of stretching that knee, okay?
Okay. Pragrahir Augrasenim. Okay. Sadyo Nishpishta Sandhin Bhuvinarapatim Apatya Tasyo Parikshat Tvayapatye Tadaiva Tvaduparipatita Nakinam Pushpa Prishtihi Kim Bhromas भ्रूमस्तधानीं सततमपि भिया त्वद्गतात्मा स बेजे सायुज्यं त्वद्वद्दूता परमियं वासना कालनेमेः.
And the first and second line you have a plus, right? And the tasyoparishtat tvayyapati. You have a plus. Okay, all right.
Yeah.
Keep going.
I still need to practice to join it.
Yeah, that's okay.
Tad भ्रातॄन् अष्टपिष्ट्वा द्रुतमत पितरौ सन्नमान् उग्रसेनं कृत्वा राजान् मुच्चै यदुकुलमखिलं मोदयन् कामदानैः. भक्तानामुत्तमं चूडावं
chodhavam.
sorry. भक्तानामुत्तमं चोधवं अमरगुरो आपते नेतिं सखायं लब्ध्वा तुष्टो नगर्यां पवनपुरपते रुन्धि मे सर्व रोगान्.
And the third line, chodhavam amara guror aptanithim.
Guror varuma.
Guror aptanithim. So
Okay.
chodhavam amara guror.
Chodavam amara guru aptanithim sakhayam labdva tushto. Okay.
Got it.
Okay, perfect. Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha.
Yeah. Gatva Santi Panimata Chatusashti Matrairaho Bihi Sarvajnastvam Sakamusalina Sarvavidyam Brihitva Putram Nashtam Yamanilayanat Agrutam Dakshinartam Tatva Tasmai Nijapuramaha Magaha Nadayan Panchasanyam Janyam Samritva Pasupas Sudrisaha Prema Para Pranunnaha Karunyena Tavam Twamapi Vivashaha Prahino Ruttavam Tam Kincha Mushmai Paramasukrute Bhaktavaryaya Dasam Bhaktayutrem Sakala Bhuvane Durlabam Dashayishyan.
And Revati, in the fourth line, first word, Bhakta, you said Bhaktyut. The ik and it are half. So Bhaktyudrekam.
Okay. Bhaktayutreham Sakala Bhuvane Durlabam Dashayishyan. Tvanmahatmaya Pratima Pisunam Gokulam Prapyasayam Tvatvarda Bhagusa Ramaya Masanantam Yashodam Pradrishtva Manimayaratam Shankita Pangajashya Shritva Praptam Bhavatan Nusharam Tyaktakarya Samiyu.
The third line, first word, Pratar Drishtva.
Pratar Drishtva Manimayaratam.
Yep.
Drishtva Shainam Tvatupama Lasatvesha Pusha Piramam Smritva Tava Vilasitan Uchchakaistaditani.
Yeah, is there, right? Yeah,
Uchchakais.
It's a Vilasitan Uchchakais.
Yeah, Vilasitan Uchchakaistanitani Ruktalapaha Katamapi Punarkatkatam Vasamukahu Saujanyatin Nijapirapitam Apyalam Vismarantyaha.
Third line, after Ruddha Lapaha, there is a pause, okay?
Okay. Sriman Kim Tvam Pitrujanarite Preshito Nirdayena Kwasau Kanto Nagara Sudrusam Hare Nadapaya Ha Asloshnaamrita Babusho Hantate Kampananam Unmadanam Guhavatasam Vismare Kantakava.
There is a third line திருப்பி சொல்லுங்க. ஆஷ்லேஷானாம். Third line திருப்பி சொல்லுங்க. ஆஷ்லேஷானாம் அமிர்த வபுஷோ.
ஆஸ்லேஷானாம் அமிர்த வபுஷோ.
Hantami chumbananam. I think you said correct. And the last word is chumbananam. Chu.
Okay. Chumbanan. Sorry. Okay. Rasa Kridalu Luvitalalitam Bishlatat Kesapasham Mandor Pinnachram Jalakanam Lopaniyam Twatankam Karunyapte Sakratabi Chetu Solonala Sakratabi Samalinkitum Tatshayeti Premon Madat Bhuvanamadana Tatpriyas Twam Vilebuhu Evam Prapayar Vivashavashanaihi Akula Gopikas Tvatsantesha Prakritiyat Soda Vijnana Harpaihi Bhuyastabir Muditamadibhi Tvanmayi Birvatubihi Tattatvarta Sarasamayat Kani Sitva Sarani.
Last line Sarasam Anayat. Last line.
Sarasamanayat. Sarasamanayat Kani Sitva Sarani.
Okay. Okay. So Lakshmi Garu, can you be a student today?
Yes.
Jayashree, you can be a student for the first half. And then second half, Shobha, you can be a student, okay? And Sridevi Garu. We have Sridevi Garu, okay. All right, so we'll start with the 8th stanza. Tvatprodghanai sahita manisham sarvato geha krityam twadvartaiva prasarati mitaha saiva chotswapalapaha cheshta prayastvadanukritayah tvanmayam sarvamevam drishtva tatra vyamuhadadikam vismayat uddhavoyam. So we saw last time how after Uddhava tried to explain, he then decided to stay in Gokula for some time. So when he stays, he sees that every time that there was not a single moment where the people of Braja were not thinking about you. So he says when they were sarvataha, anywhere they go, they're singing about you. Geha krityam, when they were doing household work, they were talking about you, talking about all the incidents you used to do. So if they make something nice, they used to say, oh, Krishna used to like this. And they used to imitate you, that how Krishna used to behave. And your tale about you used to keep going all the time. Even in the dreams, they used to be talking about you and thinking about you. So when all of this, for them, everywhere, wherever they look, there was you were personified, oh Lord, in some form or fashion. So when Uddhava sees this, he's then he's completely personified, he's like amazed, stunned as to how these people can be constantly thinking like this, right? And this, interesting, when you go to Vrindavan also, you'll notice that in one way, when you walk on the roads, the paintings on the wall that they paint are also about Krishna, right? When you actually go into the stores, the things they sell are also about Krishna. When you walk on the road, the people who come and put tilak also will be saying Radha or Krishna or something. Right? And you go to the temples also Krishna. So anywhere you look, it will be about Krishna only in Vrindavan and Mathura, right? Simply, he says they are always constantly thinking about, and that's the most important one, right? So I'm sure some of you know the story about Narada, and I always say Narada is the highest of devotees. But when I say these stories, people make these stories to make fun, but he's not. He's the highest of devotees, so don't take me wrong. So one day Narada goes and asks Narayana, I think I'm your greatest devotee. So Krishna says, no, you're not. He says, what do you mean? I'm constantly saying Narayana, right? So he then says, okay, here, take this pot of water put it on your head and go walk around that hill that you see there. So Narada, and he says, if you come back without spilling, I'll accept. So Narada then goes around walking with the pot of water. And then he comes back and says, look, I have not spilled a drop. So then Narada says, how many times did you say my name when you were walking? He says, 0, because I was focused on carrying the water. And he says, okay, let me take you to a farmer who's working. And this farmer was plowing the land. And every time when he was plowing, he was using the Lord's name. So Krishna, then Narayana says, okay, he is the highest of devotee because he's not taking time out to chant about the Lord. Anything you do on a daily basis has to be constantly saying. So I'll just again say, I'll just say it as a story, but Narada is the highest of devotees, so don't take it in the wrong sense. So anyway, that's what Uddhava is seeing here. He's seeing that these gopikas are constantly thinking about you, no matter where they are and what they are doing. So Tvat Prodghanaihi is there, put a is, Prodghanais Sahitam Anisham, comma, Sarvato Geha Krityam, comma, Tvat Vartaiva Prasarati Mitaha, comma, Saiva Chotswapa Lapaha. So that word comes together, Chotswapa Lapaha. Tvat Prodghanai Sahitamanisham Sarvato Geha Krityam Twadvartaiva Prasarati Mitaha Saiva Chotswapa Lapaha.
Tvatprodganai sahitamanisyam sarvato geha krityam twadva taiva prasarati mithaha saiva chotswapalapaha. Tvatprodganai sahitamanisyam sarvato geha krityam twadva taiva prasarati mithaha Saiva Chotswapalapaha.
Rajesh, ஒரு quick question.
Hmm.
என்னோட bookல எல்லாம் மித்த சைவன் போட்டிருக்கு.
And then just remove the is and put a visarga and a comma there. Okay.
Twadprodganai sahitamanisyam sarvato geha krityam twadvartaiva prasarati mitaha saiva chotsvapalapaha. Twadprodganai sahitamanisyam sarvato geha krityam twadvartaiva prasarati mitaha saiva chotsvapalapaha.
Cheshtaha is there, put a if. Cheshtaf Prayas Twadanu Kritayaha. That is there. Remove it and put a visarga and a comma. Twadanu Kritayaha. Twan Mayam Sarvamevam, comma. Drishtva Tatra Vyamuhad Adikam. If you want to break it, Vyamuhad Adikam, comma. Vismayad Uddhavoyam. If you want to break it. Cheshtah Prayas Twadanu Kritayaha. Tvanmayam sarvamevam drishtva tatra vyamuhadadikam vismayat uddhavoyam.
Cheshta prayastvadanakritayaha tvanmayam sarvamevam drishtva tatra vyamuhadadikam vismayaduddhavoyam. Cheshta prayastvadanakritayaha tvanmayam sarvamevam drishtva tatra vyamuhadadhikam vismayaduddhavoyam.
Cheshta prayastvadanu tvanmayam sarvamevam drishtva tatra vyamuhadadhikam vismayaduddhavoyam. Cheshta prayastvadanu tvanmayam sarvamevam drishtva tatra vyamuhadadhikam vismayaduddhavoyam.
Stanza 9. Radhayame priyatamamidham matpriyaivam bhaviti tvam kim maunam kalayasi sakhe manini matpriyeva ityadheva pravadati sakhi tvatpriyo nirjane mam ittam vadair aramayadayam tvatpriyam utpalakshim. So while Uddhava is talking, to all these other gopikas, and he talks about all the messages Krishna he's giving. He's now giving a special message to Radha. So he says, when Krishna doesn't talk about you often, but when he's alone with me, when it's just me and Krishna spending time, then this is what he comes and tells me. So he says, when I say something, Uddhava says, when I say something, Krishna then tells me, you know what, even my beloved Radha, right, the Priyatamam Idam, even she says the same thing. Even she used to talk in this exact way, right? And then when I'm silent sometimes, and he comes and tells to me, is Tom Kim Maunam, why are you silent? Like my best friend, like you are being silent like her, like she sometimes goes silent. Similarly, you are also being silent. In this way, whenever I am alone with Krishna, he's always talking about you. So that's why Uddhava is giving some special mention to Radha here, and says that by saying that he made her also happy, saying that Krishna also remembers about you in a special way. So Radha Yame Priya Tamamidam, comma, Mat Priyaivam Braviti, comma, Tvam Kim Maunam Kalayasi Sakhe, comma, Manini Mat Priyeva. Radhayame Priyatamamidham Mat Priyaivam Braviti, Tvam Kim Maunam Kalayasi Sakhe, Manini Mat Priyeva.
राधाये प्रियतममिदं मत्प्रियैवं ब्रवीति त्वं किं मौनं कलयसि सखे मानिनी मत्प्रियेव राधाये प्रियतममिदं मत्प्रियैवं ब्रवीति त्वं किं मौनं कलयसि सखे मानिनी मत्प्रियेव
राधायामे प्रियतममिदं मत्प्रियैवं ब्रवीति त्वं किं मौनं कलयसि सखे मानिनी मत्प्रियेव राधायामे प्रियतममिदं मत्प्रियैवं ब्रवीति त्वं किं मौनं कलयसि सखे मानिनी मत्प्रियेव
Ityadhyeva, Ityadhyeva, or you can say Ityadhyeva together. Pravadati Sakhi, comma, Tvat Priyo Nirjane Mam. Put a im at the end of that line and a comma, Nirjane Mam. Next line, that me becomes a e. Itham Vadair Aramayadayam. If you want to break it, you can break it at the ra. So Vadair Aramayadayam, comma, Tvat Priyam Utpalakshim. Ityadheva pravadati sakhi tvatpriyo nirjane mam ittam vadairaramayadayam tvatpriyam utpalakshim.
Rajesh ji, is it Itya Deva or Itya Deva?
Dya, D-H-Y,
Dya.
Dya. So you can break, you can either say Dya together, or you can say Ityadhyeva if you want to break it, or Dya, it's D-H-Y.
Okay, thank you.
इत्याद्येव प्रवदति सखी त्वत्प्रियो निर्जने माम् इत्थं वादैररमयदयं त्वत्प्रियामुत्पलाक्षीम् इत्याद्येव प्रवदति सखी त्वत्प्रियो निर्जने माम् इत्थं वादैररमयदयं त्वत्प्रियामुत्पलाक्षीम्
इत्याद्येव प्रवदति सखी त्वत्प्रियो निर्जने माम् इत्थं वादैररमयदयं त्वत्प्रियामुत्पलाक्षीम् इत्याद्येव प्रवदति सखी त्वत्प्रियो निर्जने माम् इत्थं वादैररमयदयं त्वत्प्रियामुत्पलाक्षीम्.
And just in the third line, Sakhi is a short E, okay? So remember not to stretch it. Sakhi, I believe you said, right?
Ityadhyeva pravadati sakhi tvatpriyo.
Stanza 10. Eshyamidrak anupagamanam kevalam karyabharat vishneshephi smarana dhridata sambhavan mastu khedah brahmanante milati nachirat Sangamo vabiyogas tulyo vasyaditi tavagira sokaro nirvyathastah. So essentially this is kind of wrapping up Uddhava's time. So Uddhava then stays there for like a few months, and then the final message he is giving to the Gopikas is that what Krishna has told us Eshyami Drak, I will come soon. So don't worry. He says, I will come and meet you all pretty soon somehow. And he says, I'm not able to come is only because Karya Bharat, I have a lot of other things to be taken care of, right? So because of all these other commitments and things that I have to do, I won't be able to come now. But he also says, the important thing is, even when you are separated, right? Your attachment should be so high that even when you are separated, you should not have any grief. He says that is the level of attachment and love you need to have for me, that even though you're separated from me, you should be can constantly be thinking about me, and that should not cause any grief to you because you're still thinking about me, right? And that should be still good enough as being me in person as well. And he says, eventually, when you attain that state of Brahmanda, when you attain that state of liberation, then all these meeting somebody or not meeting somebody or separation from somebody should have the same level of sorrow or grief. So you should not be impacted. It's not like your emotion should go up when you meet somebody and the emotion should go down when you don't meet somebody. He says that is the level you'll eventually have to attain. But in the interim, continue to think of me remotely, and then you can gradually move to that state, right? So with that, Uddhava then made the Gopika's sorrow go away, and then the Gopikas got a little bit more calm, right, with Krishna not being there. So Eshyami Dra Ga, you have a Ga there. We're going to break that Ga. So Drak, put a Ik first. Eshyami Drak Ik, and then a comma. Then the next word starts with a A. So Anupagamanam Kevalam Karya Bhara, and then put a plus. So the join the first two lines. So after Drak, there is a comma, and then we're going to say the rest of the two lines together. Okay. So the way to say that together is after Karya Bhara, in the next line you have a Dvi, right? So you put a it on the end of the first line. So Karya Bharat Vishleshepi. So that will be the easier way to say that. So Karya Bharat plus Vishleshepi Smarana Dhridata Sambhavan Mastu Khedaha. Okay. Eshyamidrak Anupagamanam Kevalam Karya Bharat Vishleshepi Smarana Dhridata Sambhavan Mastu Khedaha.
Rajesh, it's Eshyami Drag, like ig, like a.
No. Ka. First ka. K.
Oh, first ka.
First ka. Drak, ik, and A makes ga. So.
Okay. Eshyamidrak Anupagamanam Kevalam Karyabharat Vishleshepi Smarana Drudhata Sambhavan Mastu Khedaha.
Mastu Khedaha.
Mastu Sambhavan Mastu Khedaha. Eshyamidrak Anupagamanam Kevalam Karyabharat Vishleshepi Smarana Drudhata Sambhavan Mastu Khedaha.
Eshyamidrak Anupagamanam Kevalam Karyabharat Vishleshepi Smarana Dridata Sambhavan Mastu Khedaha. Eshyamidrak Anupagamanam Kevalam Karyabharat Vishleshepi Smarana Dridata Sambhavan Mastu Khedaha.
Rajesh, so the second line, Vishleshepi Smarana Dridata, comma irukku
Clear, comma, it's continuous. I think Jayashree was just probably taking a breath, I think. Dridata kapram. Yeah, so.
Okay, it's a continuous. Okay, thank you.
Brahmanande Milati Nachirat, comma, Sangamo Va Viyoga, and then put a plus again there. And then again, the way to join is the is that is there in the next line. You bring it so you can say it easily. Va Viyogas Tulyo Vaha is there. Put a is again to join it. Bas Syaditi Tava Gira, and then a comma. So one comma after Nachirat, next comma comes after Tava Gira in the next line. And everything in between together. So Karon Nirvya Thastaha. Brahmanandhe Milati Nachirat Sangamo vabiyogastullyo vasyaditi tavagira sokaro nirvyathastha.
Brahmanande milati nachirat sangamo vaviyogastulyo vasyaditi tavagira sokaro nirvyathastaha. Brahmanande milati nachirat sangamo vaviyogastulyo vasyaditi tavagira sokaro nirvyathastaha.
Brahmanande milati nachirat sanghamo vaviyogastulyo vasyaditi tavagira sokaro nirvyathastaha. Brahmanande milati nachirat sanghamo vaviyogastulyo vasyaditi tavagira sokaro nirvyathastaha.
Last stanza. It's one of my most favorite stanza among Narayaneeyam. Evam bhakti sakala bhuvani. Yeah, go ahead.
Sorry, can I ask a quick question?
Yeah.
Brahmanande miladi chirya, is there a th or no?
Nachirat. It.
Okay.
Nachirat. It.
Okay, thank you.
Evam bhakti sakala bhuvane nekshita nashruta bha kim shastraugaihi kimiha tapasa gopikabhyo namostu ityanandha kulamupagatam gokulat uddhavam tam drishtva hrushto gurupurapate pahi mamamayoghat. So I'll just chant one stanza from Bhagavatam which talks about this. So Etah param tanubruto bhuvi gopavadvo govinda heva nikilatmani rudha bhavaha vanchanti yad bhavabiyo munayo vayam cha kim brahma janma birananta katharasasya. She says, among all the people who are born in this world, who are embodied, who have taken on a body, right? And each of us, each one puts their body to use in different ways. He says nobody has done full justice to their birth in this taking this body as the Gopikas have done. Because what they have done is the amount of devotion they have actually put into it. He says nobody has actually done that. And then he says that the exclusive love for Govinda. So Govinda eva. So the only thing they look for is Govinda. So he says all the people who don't want material things, who hate material things, or even the sages, Munayo, even them. So what they all look for is the love that the Gopikas have had, right? So that's what he says there. And then he says, this is Sukabrahman saying, so for somebody like this who has attained this level of love and devotion to Krishna, then what is the purpose of them being born as a high-class Brahmana or even being born as Brahma? He says neither of that is worth it, because they have already attained that love and devotion that none of these people can attain, right? That's what this is Bhagavatam, it says. And here even Uddhava, he comes back to Krishna and then he says to Krishna, you know, now I understand why you sent me to Gokulam, because he says evam bhakti, this level of devotion, na nekshita na shruta, I have never seen it from anybody, nor have I heard it from anybody, right? That's the level of devotion and affection I saw. And he says Kim Shastrogi, what is the purpose of all the scriptures and all the Vedas, that everything that people chant? Kimiha tapasa, all the tapas and the penance that people do. What is the purpose of all of that? Nothing beats the devotion that the Gopikas have. So he says, Gopikabhyo namostu. So he says, my complete surrender and namaskaram to the Gopika, because they have achieved that level of perfection when it comes to devotion, right? So then Krishna then tells, he says, yeah, you're right, that Uddhava, you have the right amount of knowledge, and knowledge is important because otherwise you become ignorant. But at the same time, you need to have the devotion attached with the knowledge, right? So knowledge devoid of devotion is worthless. So for you to attain that level of liberation, either you should be fully devoted, or you need to have knowledge, which is also important, but you also should have a sense of devotion attached to it. And that is what is extremely important, right? So that's what triggered that whole the Gaudiya Vaishnavism, Chaitanya Mahaprabhu, and all of the thing that started, right, is all because of just saying complete, just praying, nothing else, right? Just praying to the Lord. So with that, Uddhava then returns to Mathura and meet Krishna, and then says, O Lord of Guruvayur, please protect me of me, eradicate all the ailments. So evam bhakti putta is bhaktis sakala bhuvane nikshita na shrutava, comma, kim shastraugaihi, comma, kimiha tapasa, comma, gopikabhyo namostu. Evam bhaktis sakala bhuvane nikshita na shrutava, kim shastraugaihi, kimiha tapasa, gopikabhyo namostu.
Evam bhakti sakala bhuvane nikshita nashruta va kim shastraugaihi kimiha tapasa gopikabhyo namostu. Evam bhakti sakala bhuvane nikshita nashruta va kim shastraugaihi kimiha tapasa gopikabhyo namostu.
Evam bhaktis sakala bhuvane nikshita na shrutha va kim shastraugaihi kimiha tapasa gopikabhyo namostu. Evam bhaktis sakala bhuvane nikshita na shrutha va kim shastraugaihi kimiha tapasa gopikabhyo namostu.
Itya nanda kulam upagatam. So that you have to say it together up to that point. Itya nanda kulam upagatam, comma, gokulad uddhavam tam, comma, drishtva khristo guru purapate, comma, pahi mama mayoghat. Ityananda kulam upagatam gokulat uddhavam tam drishtva khristo guru purapate pahi mama mayoghat.
Ityananda kulamupagatam gokula duddhavantam drishtva hristo gurupurapate pahi mama mayoghat. Ityananda kulamupagatam gokula duddhavantam drishtva hristo gurupurapate pahi mama mayoghat.
Ityananda kulamupagatam gokulad uddhavam tam drishtva hristo gurupurapate pahi mama mayoghat. Ityananda kulamupagatam gokulad uddhavam tam drishtva hristo gurupurapate pahi mama mayoghat. Sri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha.
Okay, that's come. Move on to 79 next. This Rukmini Swayamvaram Parinaya Varnanam, marriage. Stanza 1. So this is the two-liners tune here. Balasameta balanugato bhavan puramagahata bhishmakamanitaha dvijasutam tvadupagamavadinam dhritarasa tarasa prananamasa. So I'll give a quick story so you know what's going to happen, because 77, 78 we are not doing. So 77, this Jarasandha comes. So Jarasandha is the father-in-law of Kamsa. So Jarasandha's daughters, two daughters, Kamsa married. So because Krishna got rid of Kamsa, Jarasandha is extremely upset with Krishna, and then he attacks Krishna and Balarama like 17 times, right? And all 17 times he gets defeated. Krishna doesn't do anything to him because he's not destined to die at the hand. So the 18th time, then Krishna eventually lets him win and gets away. So because he's constantly attacking and all this, then Krishna overnight, he then Jarasandha actually goes to Greece, and it comes in the 77th chapter. He goes to Greece and gets about 1 crore or 2 crore Greek people to come to attack. So to completely shield everybody, Krishna then overnight, Dwaraka gets created by Vishwakarma, and everybody's moved overnight to Dwaraka, right? And that's all different story. So anyway, he's now in Dwaraka. So 77, Krishna has moved to Dwaraka, right, from Mathura. So he was there in Mathura only for this brief period. So now in Dwaraka, then in 78, then what happens is, there's a king called Bhishmaka. He has one son by name Rukmi, and then he has a daughter by name Rukmini. right? So Rukmini is like Sita or like Lakshmi avataram, right? So this Rukmini, right from the beginning, she was very attached to Krishna. She has heard about Krishna, and Krishna also has heard about Rukmini, and Rukmini really wants to marry Krishna. But this Rukmi, who's her brother, because he's a prince, right? So he wants to figure out how to go and attack, get more land. And so he is a friend with Jarasandha. So because Jarasandha, his father-in-law of Kamsa hates Krishna. So that's the context, right? So Rukmi doesn't like Krishna. So what he does is he then goes and teams up with Shishupala, who is Krishna's cousin, and they all team up. And they all team up and say, you know what, we'll all have to build the family amongst ourselves. We cannot let this Krishna in. So when Rukmini says she's interested in marrying Krishna and her parents are okay, Rukmi says, no way, I'm not going to let you marry Krishna. So that's what has happened so far. So Rukmi, she sends a messenger. A Dvija means a Brahmana, twice born. A person called Sunanda, she sends him to Krishna as a doot and says, my Swayamvaram is going to happen on this day. So I need you to come and take me, help me, right? And then if you don't come, I'm going to kill myself. That's what the message Rukmini gives. And then she says, oh, at the same time, I also want you to be careful not to get into a war with my brothers and my other fellow countrymen, right? So you somehow have to take me, but not get into a war. So that's what is happening in 78th chapter. So now in 79th thing here. So now Krishna, along with Balarama and the Yadava army and the Brahmana who is there, they're all now coming. They're all coming here to Vidarbha. So this is in the northern Maharashtra. So Krishna is now in Dwaraka, Gujarat. He's now coming to Vidarbha, which is near Nagpur, northern Maharashtra, right? So when he comes to Rukmi, Bhishmaka, who's Rukmini's father, he likes Krishna. So they all welcome Krishna, Balarama and everything. And then they put him in a little bit outside the city because they know all these other kings and everybody who have come there don't like Krishna. So he doesn't want to create a conflict. So he's now, Krishna is put in the outside. And then this Brahmana comes, and then Brahmana comes to Rukmini, and he comes to the side door and all, and goes and meets Rukmini and said, taken care. Krishna is here. I don't know what the plan is, but he said he's going to take care, right? So you don't have to worry. So he says, okay. So that's what is happening. And then Rukmini is happy that at least she's got the message that Krishna has come here right now.
So Rajesh, how old is Krishna when he's getting married?
I don't know how old he is. I don't know, but he's probably in the at least I think above 18, 20, because he was in war with Jarasandha. A lot of things are happening in the other things.
Yeah, in the Rukmini Santesham,
Correct.
he sends, right? So that is so very beautiful
I know.
sloham in Srimad Bhagavatam.
Correct. It is very nice. So the entire chapter, the 78th chapter, is devoted completely to Rukmini sending the message to Krishna, right? And what she is telling and all that stuff. Yeah. So Bala Sameta Balanugato Bhavan, Puramagahata Bhishmaka Manitaha Dvija Sutam Twadupagama Vadinam, Dhrita Rasa Tarasa Prananama Sa. Balasameta Balanugato Bhavan Puramagahata Bhishmaka Manitaha Dvijasutam Twadupagama Vadinam Dhritarasa Tarasa Prananamasa.
Balasameta Balanugato Bhavan Puramagahata Bhishmakamanitaha Dvijasutam Twadupagama Vadinam Dhritarasa Tarasa Prananamasa. Balasameta Balanugato Bhavan Puramagahata Bhishmakamanitaha Dvijasutam Twadupagama Vadinam Dhritarasa Tarasa Prananamasa.
Balasameta Balanugato Bhavan Puramagahata Bhishmakamanitaha Dvijasutam Twadupagama Vadinam Dhritarasa Tarasa Prananamasa. Balasameta Balanugato Bhavan Puramagahata Bhishmakamanitaha Dvijasutam Twadupagama Vadinam Dhritarasa Tarasa Prananamasa.
We'll switch this thing. So I think I said Shobha, you and Sridevi, right? Second half. Yeah. Stanza 2. Bhuvanakantamaveksha bhavatvapuhu Nrupasutasya nishamya cha cheshtitam vipulakhedajushaam puravasinam saruditairuditairagamannisha. So Rukmini knows that Krishna is somehow going to come and take Rukmini. So it's like, it's like a movie, right? This entire thing happens like a movie. So, he has placed security guards everywhere, making sure Krishna doesn't enter into the city, and everybody is posted, right? So they all know how Krishna looks like. He cannot come and all that. So when Krishna, then the evening, that previous evening or night, when the other people of the city see Krishna, so they're all talking amongst themselves. You know what? This person is like the perfect fit. I haven't seen somebody who's so handsome and so nice and so strong. I think he would be such a great fit for our princess, because Rukmini is their princess, right? So for our princess, there's nobody as good as Krishna. But then I'm also hearing that Rukmini wants Rukmini to get married to Shishupala. So I don't know why he's doing this. It's just very sad state of affairs for Rukmini, right? So I just hope the Lord does something and then she doesn't get married to Shishupala, and Krishna would be the perfect match for her. Everybody is talking, and they're spending the night talking, because the next day morning is a Swayamvara. So previous night, everybody is like, they're saying, they're shedding tears. Sir Udita, they're all kind of worried that such a bad decision Rukmini is making for Rukmini here. Bhuvana Kantam Aveksha, if you want to break it, Kantam Aveksha Bhavat Vapuhu. So put a Visarga and a comma there after Vapuhu. Next, on top of the Nr, you have a Ir on top, then remove that. So it becomes Nripa Sutasya Nishamya Cha Cheshtitam Vipula Kheda Jusham Puravasinam, comma Saruditair Uditair Agamannisha. If you want to break it, you can break it in 3 parts there on the Ra. Saruditair Uditair Agamannisha. Bhuvanakantamaveksha bhavatvapuhu nripasutasya nishamya cha cheshtitam vipulakheda jusham puravasinam saruditairuditairagamannisha.
Bhuvanakantamaveksha bhavatvapuhu nripasudasya nishamya cha cheshtidam vipulakeda jusham puravasinam Saruditairuditairagamannisha. Bhuvanakantamaveksha bhavatvapuhu nripasutasya nishamya cheshtitam vipulakeda jusham puravasinam saruditairuditairagamannisha.
Bhuvanakantamaveksha bhavadvapuhu nripasutasya nishamya cha cheshtitam vipulakheda jusham puravasinam saridutairuditairagamannisha. Bhuvanakantamaveksha bhavadvapuhu nripasutasya nishamya cha cheshtitam vipulakheda jusham puravasinam saridutairuditairagamannisha.
See, we go to the last line. Saruditair. First word.
Saruditairudita.
Yeah, correct. Okay.
Little tongue twisting.
Yeah. Saruditair uditair agamannisha. Okay.
Saruditairuditair.
Yeah. Stanza 3. Tadanu vanditu mukhi shivam vihita mangala bhushana bhasura niragamat bhavadarpita jivita swapuratah puratah subhatavrata. So just like how the other people of Vidarbha are worried and are spending their night, even Rukmini, being the bride, she doesn't sleep that night. She's constantly thinking, like what is going to happen tomorrow morning, right? And this Brahmana came and he said, don't worry, Krishna is here, and that's all. Even he knows. He doesn't know how Krishna is going to take care of Rukmini, and even Rukmini doesn't know when Krishna is going to come, how he's going to do it. She doesn't know any of the plan. So she's also constantly thinking about it. And then finally, I think she reaches a point. She's like, you know what? I don't have any choice, right? I have to just completely surrender and say, if Krishna has to somehow come and take me, else I'm going to give my life. So she kind of reaches that point where she completely gives up, right? And then says, hopefully something will happen tomorrow. So the next morning, then this Indumukhi means somebody who has a face like a moon, means round faced. round face, right? So this Indumuki's Rukmini is coming out, all the guards and everybody are coming, and they decide to go to this to the Parvati temple. She goes because to do some initial prayers before they actually go to the Swayamvaram, before she gets married. So she then goes, and she's of course decked with all the ornaments and everything, bhushana. She's all well dressed like a bride, right, with all the ornaments and everything. And then they are all going along with the guards. They're going to the Parvati temple. Tadanu Vanditum Indumukhi, if you want to break it, Vanditum Indumukhi Shivam, comma, Vihita Mangala Bhushana Bhasura Niragamat Bhavadarpita Jivita, comma, Swapurataha, put a if, then again Purataha, put a is. So Swapuratah, Puratas, Subhatavrita. Tadanu Vanditum Indumukhi Shivam Vihita Mangala Bhushana Bhasura Niragamat Bhavadharpita Jivita Swapuratah Purata Subhatavrita.
Tadanu vandidumindumuki shivam vihita mangala bhushana basura niragamad bhavadarpita jivita swapurata purata supadavrita. Tadanu vandidumindumuki shivam vihita mangala bhushana basura niragamad bhavadarpita jivita swapurata Puradas Subhadavrita.
Tadanuvanditu Mindumukhi Shivam Hita Mangala Bhushana Bhasura Niragamad Bhavadarpita Jivita Swapurata Purata Subhatavrita. Tadanuvanditu Mindumukhi Shivam Vihita Mangala Bhushana Bhasura Niragamad Bhavadarpita Jivita Swapurata Purata Subhatavrita.
Stanza 4. Kulavadhu Birupetya Kumarika Girisutam Paripujya Sadaram Muhuraya Chatatatpada Pankaje Nipatita Patitam Tava Kevalam. So this Kumarika princess was Rukmini along with Kulavadhu, all the other family members and all the other friends and everybody, right? This is a bride, so she's accompanied by a lot of women who are now carrying all the prasadams and naivedyams and everything. They're going to the temple, and then there are all the priests, everybody have also assembled there to do the puja and everything. So there she goes and recites a prayer, right? I'll just stand the 2 lines in case you know somebody who wants to get married to Krishna. You can tell them to chant this prayer, 2 line, right? Namasye Twambike Bhikshnam Swasantanayutam Shivam Bhuyat Patirme Bhagavan Krishnastadanumodatam. So she says, O Shiva, O Parvati, I am worshipping to both of you along with Yutam, along with your 2 sons, right? To Ganapati and Muruga. I'm praying to you that I want nobody else but Patirme Bhagavan. I want as my husband the Supreme Lord Bhagavan, Krishna himself as my husband, and I don't want anybody else as my husband. So that's what she actually, that's literally there's 2 lines, right, that you can anybody can chant. So she goes and says this to Shiva and Parvati and prays that I don't want anybody else other than Krishna as my husband, and so she's praying there right now.
Rajesh, which verse, what's the verse number from Bhagavatam for the 2 lines?
This is in 10th canto.
Okay.
10th canto is the Krishna thing, and in that I think 53 or 54, something like that, this comes, Rukmini Swayamvaram comes.
Okay, thank you.
So I can tell you
53,
exactly
46,
which stanza. I can point
it.
it to you. Okay, I'll send it to you, which stanza it is. I don't know what the stanza.
53, 46, Rajesh, that's what my book says.
53
chapter and 46 sloka.
46 sloka. Okay, very good. Yeah. So that is the sloka that she chants. So you can just go.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Thank you.
So, Kula Vadhu Bhirupetya Kumarika, comma, Giri Sutam Paripujya Cha Sadaram Muhura Yachata Tat Pada Pankaje, comma, Nipatita Patitam Tava Kevalam. Kulavadhu Bhirupetya Kumarika गिरिसुतां परिपूज्य च सादरं मुहुरया च तत्पदपङ्कजे निपतिता पतितां तव केवलम्.
कुलवधूपिरुपेत्य कुमारिका गिरिसुतां परिपूज्य च सादरं मुहुरया च तत्पदपङ्कजे निपतिता पतितां तव केवलम्. कुलवधूपिरुपेत्य कुमारिका गिरिसुतां परिपूज्य च सादरं मुहुरया च तत्पदपङ्कजे निपतिता पतितां तव केवलम्.
कुलवधूभिरुपेत्य कुमारिका गिरिसुतां परिपूज्य च सादरं मुहुरया च तत्पदपङ्कजे निपतिता पतितां तव केवलम्. कुलवधूभिरुपेत्य कुमारिका गिरिसुतां परिपूज्य च सादरं मुहुरया च तत्पदपङ्कजे निपतिता पतितां तव केवलम्.
Stanza 5. समवलोक कुतूहल संकुले नृपकुले निभृतं त्वयि च स्थिते नृपसुताग्निरगाद्गिरिजालयात् सुरुचिरं रुचिरञ्जित दिङ्मुखा. So now Rukmini is getting ready to come out of the temple, right? And all the other kings who have all assembled there are all waiting, because they're also waiting to see Rukmini. They haven't seen her. So they're all waiting outside, the expectation to see Rukmini. And Lakshmi Devi, like Lakshmi Devi in Rukmini's form, is now beginning to come out. She comes out of the temple, and like it happened in the 28th chapter, right, where we saw the Lakshmi Swayamvaram also happened. The moment she comes out of the temple, it's like the entire, all the directions have been fully lit up, right? So that's how she was shining bright as she actually came out of the temple, and everybody is now, like it happened today, they're all beginning to adore her, saying how beautiful she's looking. So she's now coming out of the temple. See, like it happens in Tamil, in English, you should visualize, right? So she doesn't know what's going to happen. She's now coming out of the temple right now. So Samavaloka Kutuhala Sankule, comma, Nripakule Nibrutam Twai Cha Stite Nripa Suta Niragat Giri Jalayat, comma, Suruchiram Ruchi Ranjita. So Nyas half in sound, Ranjita Ding Mukha. Samavaloka Kutuhala Sankule Nripakule Nibrutam Twai Cha Stite Nripasuta Niragat Girijalayat Suruchiram Ruchiranjita Dhingmukha.
समवलोक कुतूहल संकुले नृपकुले निपृतां त्वयि च स्थिते नृपसुता निरगात् गिरिजालयात् सुरुचिरं रुचिरञ्चित तिङ्मुखा. समवलोक कुतूहल संकुले नृपकुले निपृतां त्वयि च स्थिते नृपसुता निरगात् गिरिजालयात् सुरुचिरं रुचिरञ्चित तिङ्मुखा.
समवलोक कुतूहल संकुले नृपकुले निभृतं त्वयि च स्थिते नृपसुता निरगात् गिरिजालयात् सुरुचिरं रुचिरञ्जित दिन्मुखा. समवलोक कुतूहल संकुले नृपकुले निभृतं त्वयि च स्थिते नृपसुता निरगात् गिरिजालयात् सुरुचिरं रुचिरञ्जित दिन्मुखा.
Stanza 6. Bhuvana Mohana Rupa Rucha Tadha Vivashitha Kila Raja Kadambhaya Tvapi Deva Kataksha Vimokshanaihi Pramadaya Madayancha Krishe Manak. So like Rukmini is just coming out. So she's now getting even more worried, because she says the time for the Swayamvaram is now coming up, the time for marriage is coming up, and there's no sign of Krishna. She has still not been rescued, and she's wondering how is this person going to help me out. So she then, what like anybody does, is she's walking very slowly, because she thinks if she walks fast, then time will go and then she will get married to Shishupala. So she's walking very slow, giving time for Krishna to somehow show up. And she comes out, and then she sees all these kings there. So Shukra Brahman says very beautifully that she's taking, like, because she's the princess, right? So she has to be a little bit polished and she can't be looking around everywhere. So she says with the tip of her fingers, she's slowly adjusting her hair, right? As if she's adjusting her hair, she's just slightly, she's looking on the sideway glances. Can she see Krishna anywhere? So when she's seeing all the other kings. And then there at one point, she says, standing at the end there, she sees Krishna. So she says, okay, at least this person has come now, right? She doesn't know how he's going to help, but very the corner of her eyes, she's seeing Krishna. And then Bhattri Pat says, you also, O Lord, it's not like just Rukmini is, looking for you. You also were Madayancha Krishna. You also are enchanted. When you looked at Rukmini, even you are also, Krishna is also seeing Rukmini for the first time, right? So he says, you also are falling in love when you look at Rukmini, looking at how beautiful she was. And so, so the Rukmini now sees that Krishna has actually come there with her. So the Bhagavatam says, Dhadrishite Achyutam. She sees Achyuta standing at the corner, and not amongst the kings, because when the kings, if they find out, then the war will start, right? So he's standing in the corner. Bhuvana Mohana Rupa Rucha Tada, comma, Viva Shithakila Raja Kadambaya, Twamapi Deva Kataksha Vimokshanaihi, comma, Pramadaya Madayan Chakrishe, in sound Madayan Chakrishe Manak. Bhuvana Mohana Rupa Rucha Tadha Vivashita Khila Raja Kadambaya Twamapi Deva Kataksha Vimokshanaihi Pramadaya Madayan Chakrishe Manak.
ಭುವನ ಮೋಹನ ರೂಪರುಚಾ ತದಾ ವಿವಶಿತಾ ಕಿಲ ರಾಜ ಕದಂಪಯ ತ್ವಮಪಿ ದೇವ ಕಟಾಕ್ಷ ವಿಮೋಕ್ಷಣೈಃ ಪ್ರಮದಯ ಮದಯಾಂಚ ಕೃಷೇ ಮನಾಕ್. ಭುವನ ಮೋಹನ ರೂಪರುಚಾ ತದಾ ವಿವಶಿತಾ ಕಿಲ ರಾಜ ಕದಂಪಯ ತ್ವಮಪಿ ದೇವ ಕಟಾಕ್ಷ ವಿಮೋಕ್ಷಣೈಃ Pramadaya Madayancha Krushe Manak.
Bhuvana Mohana Rupa Rucha Tada Vivashita Khila Raja Kadambaya Tvamapi Deva Kataksha Vimokshanaihi Pramadaya Madayancha Krushe Manak. Bhuvana Mohana Rupa Rucha Tada Vivashita Khila Raja Kadambaya Tvamapi Deva Kataksha Vimokshanaihi Pramadaya Madayancha Krushe Manak.
Stanza 7. Kvanugameshyasi Chandramukhi Titam Sarasametya Karena Harnkshanat Samadiropya Ratam Twamapahritaha Bhuvitato Vitato Ninado Dvisham. So as she is now slowly walking, suddenly somebody comes and grabs Rukmini's hand and says, "Oh, Chandramukhi," means again moon-faced one whose face is like a moon. Kwanu Gamishyati, where do you think you are going? Somebody just comes and grabs her hand and pulls her. So Rukmini hasn't heard Krishna speak, right? She's hearing, so she doesn't know it's Krishna's voice. And she only saw Krishna at the corner of her eyes, and she doesn't even see who comes. But somehow the moment she heard this, somebody randomly coming and saying, "Kwanu Gamisheti, where are you going?" A moon-faced one, and he grabs her hand, she automatically gives her hand, right? It's not even like she's resisting. She's like, if somebody suddenly comes and pulls your hand, then you will try to resist. So here this is, she's not even resisting. The moment she heard that, she knew it was Krishna who has actually come to her rescue, and she willingly then goes, because it shouldn't appear like Krishna is trying to steal her away, right? So he's trying to take her, but she's also willingly coming. So she immediately offers, she moves forward. Then Krishna then grabs her and puts her in the chariot, and they both just go away. So all the other kings who were all standing there are like, hold on, we had all this security here. Where did this person just suddenly come in the chariot out of nowhere? And then she suddenly grabbed Rukmini, and then everybody is sitting there wondering and looking at each other. So with this way, you then take Rukmini and then you take her in the chariot, and then this is then creating a big commotion over there, because everybody is taken by surprise, because nobody knew where Krishna was, and then he came all of a sudden.
Rajesh, a question. In the Mahabharatam series serial kattradla Arjuna comes and then takes Rukmini and then gives to Krishna அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி காட்டுவா.
அது Arjuna will come and take Subhadra.
ஓ சுபத்ரா, ஓகே. அதுல வந்து ருக்மிணி அப்படிங்கிற மாதிரி காமிப்பாவா வந்து அர்ஜுனா comes as
at this point Krishna has not gone and met the Pandavas yet.
Okay.
At this point in time, he has not met the Pandavas yet at all. So this is in the Rukmini vande is his Krishna marries Rukmini, right? So he comes and takes Rukmini.
Okay.
So Kwanu Gamishyasi Chandra Mukhiti Tam, comma Sarasam Etya Karena Haran Kshanat Samadhi Ropya Ratam Twama Pahritaha. So even if you don't have a Visarga, put a Visarga there. Pahritaha, comma Bhuvi Tato Vitato Ninado Dvisham. Kvanugameshyasi Chandramukhi Titham Sarasametya Karena Haran Kshanat Samadhiropya Ratam Twama Pahritaha Bhuvitato Vitato Ninado Dvisham.
Kvanugameshyasi Chandramukhi Titham Sarasametya Karena Haran Kshanat Samatirobhya Ratam Twamapahrita Bhuvitato Vitato Ninato Dvisham.
Shobha, on the third line or however you have it, Samadhi, the sound, Samadhiropya.
Okay,
and
great.
Toma Pahritaha, put a Visarga after that Pahrita.
Pahrutaha, yes.
Yeah.
Kvanugameshyasi Chandramukhi Titham Sarasametya Karena Haran Kshanat Samadhirobhya Ratam Twamapahrutaha Uvitato Vitato Ninato Dvisham.
Kvanugameshyasi Chandramukhi Titham Sarasametya Karena Haran Kshanat Samadhiropya Ratham Twamapahrutaha Bhuvitato Vitato Ninado Dvisham. Kvanugameshyasi Chandramukhi Titham Sarasametya Karena Haran Kshanat Samadhiropya Ratham Twamapahrutaha Bhuvitato Vitato Ninado Dvisham.
And Swami, you get a question. Because Krishna has experience doing this, Arjuna later on, Subhadra, who's Krishna and Balarama's younger sister, right? So Arjuna then is interested in her. So Krishna then says, you come as a sannyasi, right? And you come as a sannyasi and you abduct Subhadra. So on the same abduction kind of, that happens. But that is for Subhadra is where Arjuna comes later on. When they are all in the disguise, right? They were a few years, they were in disguise. So at that time, Arjuna comes in. Stanza 8. Kvanugata Pashupala iti krudham Kritarana yadubhischa jitan ripaha Natu bhavan udachalyata tairako Pishunakaishunakairiva kesari. So all these kings are like, this Pashupala, this cowherd who is actually come, where did he suddenly come from? Because they didn't know Krishna had come, and suddenly he has come and taken away our Rukmini. So all of the army and the kings were all there, get into a war. But like we said earlier, Balarama had got the Yadava army, and then the army ends up defeating. But here he says Krishna is like, he's not bothered at all. So as if Krishna, you were walking as if, when a lion is walking, and then this was where Kesari is walking, and then all the dogs are barking, the lion doesn't care. You can continue to bark. Krishna didn't even fight in this war. He just took Rukmini and he was focused on just taking Rukmini and going. And Balarama and the Yadava army then defeat the rest of the armies there. And then that way Krishna takes Rukmini away. Kwanu Gataha, put a if, Gatah Pashupala iti kruda, comma, Kritarana yadubhishcha jita nripaha Natu bhavan udachalyata, if you want to break it, bhavan udachalyata tairaho, comma, pishunakaihi, is there, put a ish sound, pishunakaish, shunakairiva kesari. Kvanugata pashupala ite krudha, kritarana yadubhishcha jitan ripaha, Natu bhavan udachalyata tairaho, Pishunakai Shunakai Rivakesari.
क्वनुकद पशुपाल इति कृता कृतरणाय दुपिश्च चिता नृपाः नतु भवानुत्त शाल्यतदैरहो पिशुनकैः सुनकैरिव केसरी क्वनुकद पशुपाल इति कृता कृतरणाय दुपिश्च चिता नृपाः नतु भवानुत शाल्यतदैरहो पिशुनकैः सुनकैरिव केसरी
क्वनुगतः पशुपाल इति क्रुधा कृतरणाय दुभिश्च जिता नृपाः न तु भवानुदचाल्यत तैरहो पिशुनकैः शुनकैरिव केसरी क्वनुगतः पशुपाल इति क्रुधा कृतरणाय दुभिश्च जिता नृपाः न तु भवानुदचाल्यत तैरहो पिशुनकैः शुनकैरिव केसरी.
Stanza 9. Tadanurukminamagatamahave badamupekshya nibadhya virupayan kritamadam parimuchya balokthibihi puramaya ramaya sahakantaya. So after that army got defeated, then Rukmi is still there. So he is in the battle with Krishna. And then Rukmi gets defeated in the battle with Krishna. So at that time, Rukmini then comes and says, you know what, we've just been married, so don't do anything to my brother, so don't hurt him. So Krishna lets Rukmi go away, right? He doesn't do anything because, you know, for a king at the time, getting defeated in the battle and getting sent away is the biggest of punishments, right? That's like a big insult to them. So then Rukmi then eventually then he goes away. So what happens later, and this is not in this Narayaneeyam, is the story of Mahabharata. If you guys know, is later on Krishna and Rukmini then have this son called as Pradyumna. This Pradyumna ends up marrying Rukmi's daughter. So it's Mama Punna, right? Mama's daughter. Pradyumna ends up marrying Rukmi's daughter, and that's the boy called Aniruddha. So this Rukmi eventually gets killed. He actually gets killed by Balarama later on in the during the Pradyumna's marriage, right? Yeah. So that is all happening later. That is anyway a separate story. So here then Rukmi then comes back, right? So Jarasandha, who has, like I said, lost 17 battles with Krishna. So Rukmi then comes back to Jarasandha. Jarasandha says, it's okay. You know, I myself have lost 17 times. So this is, you know, if in a time is not right, it's not going to work out. We'll take care of Krishna later. He's convincing him. Then you, Krishna, then come to Puramaya. You come to your town, Dwaraka, along with Ramaya, along with Rama, along with Lakshmi, which is Rukmini in this case. So they both reach Dwaraka now. Tadanu Rukminam Agatam Ahave. If you want to break it, Rukminam Agatam Ahave, comma, Vadam Upekshya Nibadhya Virupayan Kritamadam Parimuchya Balokti Bihi, comma, Puramaya Ramaya Saha Kantaya. Tadanurukminamagatamahave Badamupekshya Nibadhya Virupayan Kritamadam Parimuchya Balokti Bihi Puramaya Ramaya Sahakantaya.
Rajesh, the second line is this Vadhu or Vadha?
Which one? Oh, Badam Upekshya.
It's a DHA, not DHU.
No, it's not you, because Badam means kill. So he did not Upeksha, he refrained from killing him. So Badam Upeksha.
Okay, in Telugu it says Vadhu, that's right. Okay,
yeah, the U comes in the Ma. So Vadam Upeksha. Okay.
Tadadurukminam Akadamahave Vadamupekshya Nipatya Virupayan Hridamadam Parimuchya Baloktibihi Puramaya Ramaya Sahakantaya. Tadadurukminam Akadamahave Vadamupekshya Nipatya Virupayan Hridamadam Parimuchya Baloktibihi Puramaya Ramaya Sahakantaya.
Tadanurukminamagatamahave Vadamupeksha Nibadhya Virupayan Rutamadam Parimuchya Balokti Bihi Puramaya Ramaya Sahakantaya. तदनु रुक्मिणमागतमाहवे वदमुपेक्ष निबध्य विरूपयन् पृतमदं परिमुच्य बलोक्तिभिः पुरमया रमया सह कान्तया.
Stanza 10. Navasamagamalajjitamanasam pranaya kautuka jrumbhitamanmatham aramaya khalunata yatha sukham rahasitam hasitam shulasanmukhim. So when they come to Dwaraka, now then they have an official marriage, right? So the people there for Krishna and Rukmini, the marriage actually happens, and it's Dwaraka is well, decorated and all that stuff. And then Rukmini now being the bride, so she's very shy, right? Because she doesn't even know Krishna, right? To some extent, she's meeting him for the first time on that day. So of course, but inherently, she's goddess Lakshmi herself. So there is, of course, there's a connection there. But anyway, so she's shy, being a newlywed bride, and then they are spending their time happily, and Krishna also is in private, he's keeping her happy, and then they're having a good time. So that's all is happening here. So Nava Samagama Lajjita Manasam, Pranaya Kautuka Jrumbhita Manmatham Aramayaha, is that put a ich sound, Aramayah Khalu Natha Yatha Sukham, Rahasi Tam Hasitam Shula Sanmukhim. Navasamagama Manasam Pranaya Kautuka Jrumbhita Manmatham Aramaya Khalunatha Yata Sukham Rahasitam Hasitam Shula Sanmukhim. Shoma mute lirke.
नवसमागमलज्जितमानसां प्रणयकौतुकदृम्पितमन्मताम् आरमयः कलुनादयदा सुखं रसितां हसितां शुसलसन्मुखीं नवसमागमलज्जितमानसां प्रणयकौतुकदृम्पितमन्मताम् आरमयः कलुनादयदा सुखं रसितां हसितां शुभसन्मुखीम्.
नवसमागमलज्जितमानसां प्रणयकौतुकजृम्भितमन्मथाम् अरमयः खलु नाथ यथा सुखं रहसितां हसितां शुलसन्मुखीम्. नवसमागमलज्जितमानसां प्रणयकौतुकजृम्भितमन्मथाम् अरमयः खलु नाथ यथा सुखं रहसितां हसितां शुलसन्मुखीम्.
We'll try to reach the remaining two stanzas also today. Stanza 11. Bibidha narmabhireva maharnisham pramadama kalayan punarekadha rijumate kila vakragira bhavan bharatanor atanodati lolatam. So with this, so Bhadrapad just says, with this, as you are spending good time with Rukmini, both of you, so one day it so happened that you upset Rukmini. So, so Rukmini is actually a very learned person. She's actually she was very strong in Sanskrit, because like Subhadra was telling the Rukmini Sandesham that she sends, she writes a very detailed thing in Sanskrit to Krishna, right, about how she has to come. So she's a very learned person. She's beautiful. So Krishna says like, like, how can you come and pick me? How can you come with me? Right? I'm not even that smart. I'm not that handsome, which is what I also tell, right, to my wife. So similarly, Krishna also says, how come you pick me, right? In this case, it's not fair, or I don't know how you made the decision. So Rukmini then gets upset, and Krishna then goes and consoles. So that's what Bhadrapad is just saying in a very jovial manner, that you one day offended her by saying that, but then immediately you then fixed it, and then you were, you both lived happily ever after marriage. You were like happy together. So Vividha Narmabhir Evam Aharnisham. So if you want to break it, Narmabhir Evam Aharnisham, Pramadam Akalayan Punarekada Riju Matehe, is there put a ich sound, Riju Mateh Kila Vakragira Bhavan, Vara Tanor Athanodati. If you want to break it, you break it that Ra. Tanor Athanodati Lolatam. So Shubha and Sridevi, I'll just say one time, okay? This will run out of time. Vividha narmabhireva maharnisham प्रमदमाकलयन् पुनरेकधा ऋजुमतेः किल वक्रगिरा भवान् भरतनोरतनोदति लोलताम्
विविधनर्मभिरेव महर्निशं प्रमदमाकलयन् पुनरेकता रुजुमतेः किल वक्रगिरा भवान् नोदति लोलताम्
विविधनर्मभिरेव महर्निशं प्रमदमाकलयन् पुनरेकदा ऋजुमतेः किल वक्रगिरा भवान् वरतनोरतनोदितलोलताम् वरतनोरतनोदतिलोलताम्
Stanza 12. थदधिकैरतलालनकौशलैः प्रणयिनीमधिकं सुखयन्निमाम् अयि मुकुन्द भवच्चरितानि नः प्रगदतां गदतान्तिमपाकुरु. So he said this way, your love for Rukmini then kept increasing, right, over time. And then, then you, like we said earlier, right, so they live happily. So here Bhattacharya says, Mukunda, like I said earlier, Mukunda means Muktim Dadati iti Mukunda. The one who gives liberation is Mukunda. So he says, oh Mukunda, so because Bhavat Charitani, because for all of us who are narrating all your Charitam, all your excellences, right, every time, as we are doing that, please, Gadathantim, please eradicate all the diseases and everything, because we are constantly chanting your excellences. Oh, so here he doesn't say Lord of Guru Ayur, he says, oh Mukunda, right? Please eradicate our diseases and sufferings as well. Tadadhi kairata lalana kaushalaihi, comma, pranayinim adhikam sukayennimam ai mukunda bhavach charitani naha, is there, put a if and put a plus, charitani nah pragadatam gada tantim apakuru.
Naha இல்லையா அதுல?
And then naha, you put a plus there and put a if sound to join.
If இல்லையா? If sound தானே?
If F sound. Okay. Yeah.
Okay.
So that last two lines or one line, however you have it, is together. Okay, it's not two lines. All enough. Tadadhikairata lalana kaushalaihi pranayinim adhikam sukayennimam ayi mukunda bhavaccharitani nah pragadatam gadatantim apakuru.
तदधिकैरदलालन कौशलैः प्रणयिनीमधिकं शुकयन्निमाम् अयि मुकुन्द भवच्चरितानि भवच्चरितानि. அதுல கன்ஃபியூஷன் இருக்குன்னா
Naha is right, put a if sound. Okay,
if if
இல்ல வெறும் F sound.
naf, okay
Naf, and then put a plus. Yeah,
put a plus. I mukund bhavaccharidani na nif
இல்ல F just F. Yeah, Naf.
பிரகததாம் கததாந்திமபா குரு. ஒருக்கா கூட சொல்லட்டுமா? ரொம்ப
சொல்லுங்க.
தததிகைரதலாலன கௌஷலைஹ प्रणयिनीमधिकं सुगयन्निमाम् ऐ मुकुन्द भवच्चरितानि न प्रगततां गदतान्तिमपाकुरु.
Yeah, the ऐ मुकुन्द भवच्चरितानि न प्रगदतां. அவ்வளவுதான் அது.
Okay. Enough. Thanks.
Okay. तदधिकैरतलालन कौशलैः प्रणयिनीमधिकं सुखयन्निमाम् अयि मुकुन्द भवच्चरितानि नः प्रगदतां गदतान्तिमपाकुरु.
Shri Krishnaya Parabrahmane Namaha. End the class here. Sandhanandhavabodhatmakamanupamitam kaladeshavadebhyam nirmuktam nityamuktam nigamashatasahasrena nirbhasyamanam aspashtam drishtamatre punarurupurusharthatmakam brahmatattvam tattavad bhati sakshat gurupavanapure hanta bhagyam janaham कायेन वाचा मनसेन्द्रियैर्वा बुद्ध्यात्मना वा प्रकृते स्वभावात् करोमि यत् सकलं परस्मै नारायणायेति समर्पयामि.